Good morning, everyone. I'm Emily Jashinsky, host of After Party, filling in today for Megyn Kelly. It's Friday, November 7th, 2025. This is your AM update.
They pledged themselves to ISIS and were plotting acts of terrorism in our country.
3 suspects arrested in connection to a foiled ISIS-style plot.
Taking 10% of the flights out will reduce that pressure.
Brace for travel delays as the FAA reduces flights amid the government shutdown. President Trump announces a new deal to lower the cost of popular weight loss drugs. And former Speaker Nancy Pelosi announces she's retiring. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM Update.
We talk a lot about personal responsibility on this show. Well, here's one aspect that's really important: your health. And I'm not talking about following whatever the experts recommend. I'm talking about real data-driven decisions based on your body's actual numbers. We demand transparency in government, but most of us have no idea what's happening inside of our own bodies. Disease can develop silently for years before symptoms appear. By then, you're playing catch-up with expensive treatments instead of preventing problems when they are cheap and easy to fix. Well, I want to tell you about Gevity. They are revolutionizing preventative care with something radically different: 100-plus blood markers tested at your home. Personalized supplement packs shipped directly to you based on your deficiencies. Biannual retesting to track progress. Plus ongoing virtual consultations on your schedule. This is healthcare independence. And you get 20% off at gogevity.com/Megyn with code Megyn. That's gogevity, GEVITI.com/Megyn. Because nobody should control your health decisions but you.
3 more suspects charged this week in connection with an alleged ISIS-inspired Halloween terror plot foiled in Michigan last week. 5 total now facing federal charges in the case. 2 New Jersey teenagers from affluent families, both 19 years old, arrested on Tuesday, in addition to a 3rd suspect arrested in Michigan. The New York Post reporting Tomas Khan Jimenez Guzel was arrested at Newark Liberty International Airport. Law enforcement sources telling the Post Guzel was planning to visit family in Turkey, then go to Syria to train with ISIS. Guzel has allegedly been planning to travel to Turkey later this month, but changed his plans when the Michigan suspects were arrested, according to the Post. Investigators saying they found a message on Guzel's phone about carrying out a Boston Marathon bombing-like attack. Authorities also arresting Milo Shadaret, the suspect, at his father's home. The teens, who attended the same high school, allegedly both members of a group chat including members of the alleged Michigan plot, containing discussions of a Halloween attack they referred to as Pumpkin. ABC7 reporting the group talked about an attack on LGBTQ targets in the Detroit area and joining ISIS in Syria. Acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, describing the nature of the charges and the alleged plot in a video posted to social media on Wednesday evening.
As alleged in today's complaint, from around October 4th, 2024 to November 4th, 2025, Tomas Khan Jimenez Guzel of Montclair, New Jersey, along with other co-conspirators, used encrypted messaging applications to plan travel to Turkey and then to Syria to join ISIS as fighters. They discussed detailed travel plans, physical training, weapons including firearms and IEDs, and methods to avoid law enforcement detection. According to the complaint, they pledged themselves to ISIS and were plotting acts of terrorism in our country. The messages also included photographs of Jimenez Guzel standing in front of the ISIS flag, holding a knife. The complaint against Milo Shadaret charges 2 counts of transmitting threats to interstate and foreign commerce. It describes a pattern of anti-Semitic messages advocating violence, along with images and purchases consistent with preparation for attack, including a knife and sword collection, tactical gear, and images of him practicing at a gun range.
Both teens appearing in court on Wednesday to confirm they understand the charges against them. The 3rd suspect, 19-year-old Ayub Nasser, also arrested Wednesday in Michigan. His brother, one of the 2 men arrested last week. All U.S. citizens, the 3 are charged with conspiring to provide material support to ISIS and having firearms that would be used to commit an act of terrorism on behalf of ISIS. Attorney General Pam Bondi describing the weapons cache discovered by investigators.
And this has been a team effort, and everyone's done an incredible job, and they've stopped a major terrorist attack. These two defendants, not only what you said, had 1,600 rounds of ammo, they had countless AR-15s, they had shotguns, they had handguns, and they were going to the range to perfect their skills. And they also, and this is all out of our indictment, by the way, because it's a pending case. I'm only saying what's in the indictment. They also had been going to the range to perfect their skills, and they had discussed the 2015 Paris attack. So they were fully planning on a terrorist attack in our country. There's going to be more to come on this.
Is there any link overseas?
There'll be more to come on this. This is all I can talk about now on it.
Ali's lawyer saying over the weekend there is, quote, no evidence backing the allegations. Listen up, travelers. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warning Americans to brace for noticeable flight disruptions at 40 major airports beginning today. Due to the ongoing government shutdown, now in its 6th week, the longest ever, the FAA is rolling out a graduated cut to air traffic, starting with a 4% reduction today, increasing by 1% each day until it hits 10% next week, or until the shutdown ends. CNBC reporting as many as 3,500 to 4,000 flights a day could be affected, with the biggest slowdowns expected at the nation's busiest hubs: Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and New York. The FAA says the cuts are necessary due to staffing shortages among air traffic controllers straining operations. Controllers required to work without pay as essential employees now about to miss a second full paycheck on top of an earlier partial one. CNN reporting more than 400 staffing shortages have been logged at FAA facilities since day one of the shutdown, creating cascading delays and crowding at airports nationwide. Secretary Duffy explaining the move yesterday on Fox.
We always assess risk in the airspace, right? As you've seen, and I think you and I have talked about, controllers are making decisions about their families and their income, and some of them are not coming to work. It's a problem. I want them to come to work and do their jobs, but that's the reality that I deal with. And so you've seen a lot of delays and cancellations through the airspace. It changes every single day based on what controllers are coming to work and which ones are not and what airspaces. But we were seeing increased pressure in these 40 markets, and we looked at the data. This was data-driven, and so taking 10% of the flights out will reduce that pressure, which is what we want to do. Now, does that mean there's going to be no delays? No, Brian. There's potentially still going to be delays if we have staffing triggers, and we don't have enough controllers in an airspace where we did cut 10%. You might see additional delays.
One pilot for a major U.S. airline telling AM Update the situation is, quote, cataclysmic. Secretary Duffy telling Fox, the decision, though painful, is essential to ensuring safety in the sky.
My mission, number one, is to keep people safe. That's one. Number two is gridlock with the traveling public. That's a secondary issue. Delays are a secondary issue. Safety is primary. And so this is not politics for us. Again, politics are around what's happening, but this was not a political decision. This was a data-driven decision to make the right calls, to get ahead of any issues that could happen, in the airspace that could have negative consequences.
There are rumblings of a deal on the Hill, but no timeline on when one might be reached to reopen the government. Coming up, President Trump announces a deal with 2 major drug manufacturers to lower the prices of popular medications, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi officially announces plans to retire.
When customers are walking through the aisles of their local Walmart, they're not just picking up groceries or supplies. They're supporting American businesses and their communities. The real story is what's behind the label. With over 2/3 of the products Walmart buys made, grown, or assembled right here in the U.S., buying local is not just stocking shelves, it's about strengthening communities. Because of that commitment, Walmart invested $350 billion in U.S. manufacturing, helping American companies like Fisher & Weezer Specialty Foods, a local Texas business, expand their operations in Fredericksburg, Texas, hire more people, and bring their Texas-grown peach jam to a national market. Their story is just one example of how Walmart's U.S. manufacturing investment is supporting over 750,000 American jobs. Businesses across the country are empowered to sell more, hire more, and help their communities grow. From farms to factories to final shopping carts, learn how Walmart is fueling the future of U.S. manufacturing at walmart.com/America at work.
President Trump announcing a major new weight loss drug deal yesterday from the Oval.
So today I'm thrilled to announce that the two world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, have agreed to offer their most popular GLP-1 weight loss drug, I call it the fat drug, remember? At drastic discounts, including the drugs known as Zepbound and Wegovy, often called Ozempic. This is a triumph for American patients that will save lives and improve the health of millions and millions of Americans. Amazing thing. They are amazing.
According to the White House, GLP-1 weight loss drugs Wegovy and Ozempic, currently priced at roughly $1,000 to $1,350 per month, will drop to around $350 when purchased through TrumpRX, a newly created government-managed direct-to-consumer online pharmacy. The Trump administration targeting the long-standing global arrangement in which American consumers pay incredibly high prices for the same drugs from the same factory in the same packaging, sold to consumers around the world for just a fraction of the cost. More from the president.
The United States is just 4% of the world's population and consumes only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the American customer. I would say that's not so good. To address this chronic unfairness, I signed an executive order earlier this year instructing my administration to do everything in our power to implement most favored nation's drug pricing, which means that Americans should pay no more than the lowest price offered anywhere in the world, so that you've heard for years the disparity where you'll pay $150 for a pill in New York and you'll pay $10 for a pill in London. Now you're going to pay $20 both, because the world is a little bit bigger than the U.S., so it goes up that way, but you'll pay $20 and $20. A tremendous advantage to our country after years of being abused by the world system.
Obesity in America is not just a personal health issue, it's a full-scale national crisis. According to HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr., 50% of the adult population is obese or overweight. Here the secretary says this deal, while not a cure-all, will drastically improve health outcomes.
Obesity is the number one driver of chronic disease, and it drives about 50% of healthcare costs in this country. Diabetes, cardiac diseases, we are going to see a decline because of this historic agreement. We're going to see a decline in costs, but also, more importantly, in the afflictions themselves. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly, and these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem? This will be a lifesaver to them. It's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that.
Secretary Kennedy also announcing new federal food guidelines will be released in December, aiming to radically alter American diets and solve a key driver of the obesity epidemic. Head of Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Oz, with a stunning projection on the effect of widespread access to these weight loss medications.
We have an update, Secretary Kennedy. We thought it was 125 million pounds. Mr. President, our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 million pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia. All the things we know are associated with obesity and much more.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing Thursday in a social media video that she will not run for re-election next year.
For decades, I've cherished the privilege of representing our magnificent city in the United States Congress. It seems prophetic now that the slogan of my very first campaign in 1987 was, "A voice that will be heard." And it was you who made those words come true. It was the faith that you had placed in me and the latitude that you had given me that enabled me to shatter the marble ceiling and be the first woman Speaker of the House. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
The 85-year-old, having served 19 terms over nearly 4 decades, was first elected in 1987 and became the first female House Speaker in 2007, and then again in 2019. During her tenure, the Speaker Emerita, a made-up term, led both impeachment efforts against President Trump, the first over allegations that he withheld foreign aid to push Ukraine into investigating Vice President Joe Biden's business ties in the region, which later gained significant factual support. The second coming just days after the January 6th riot, Ms. Pelosi's daughter's documentary film crew capturing this moment as the speaker fled the Capitol.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they had, they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
President Trump ultimately acquitted by the Senate on both impeachments. Mr. Trump reacting to the news of Pelosi's retirement yesterday, as only he can.
I think she's an evil woman. I'm glad she's retiring. I think she did the country a great service by retiring. I think she was a tremendous liability for the country.
And on Dick Cheney.
I thought she was an evil woman who did a poor job, who cost the country a lot in damages and in reputation. I thought she was terrible. Thank you very much.
Speaker Pelosi retiring on a comfortable nest egg. She and husband, venture capitalist Paul Pelosi, sharing an estimated net worth of more than $230 million, according to Newsweek. Must be nice. That'll do it for your AM update. I'm Emily Jashinsky, host of After Party. Megyn is back Monday. Catch The Megyn Kelly Show today, live on SiriusXM's The Megyn Kelly Channel, 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.